So now we'll be addressing writing a customer problem statement. Once you successfully mapped your ideas into assumptions based on their desirability, feasibility, and viability, it is time to convert your idea into a customer problem template. Now, a customer problem statement helps you build a detailed experience, and it is a specific idea that is meant to deliver user a value to the user. After you've conducted user research, you've turned feedback into ideas, and you've mapped these ideas against certain frameworks. Writing a customer problem statement is how you tie your idea, the user's pain point, and solution, which is your product, together. However, there's a template that exists to simplify this process. I just like to mention that writing a customer problem statement is usually something that comes when you are trying to launch an MVP. For existing features or for an existing product, you don't have to write a customer problem statement. But for your first MVP launch, you have to write a customer problem statement. Now, here's a template of how to, or rather, a template that can be used in writing a customer problem statement. Now, you start with your target audience. Who are you writing this for? So, you're writing it for your target customer. What is their pain points? What is their need? Who has, you insert the need. Then what is the solution that you're having to this need? You insert the idea that is a specific solution. You don't have to insert your product name, but you can insert what your product does right here in this section. And then what is the benefit of your product? So you insert the benefits of your products, and then how would your product solve your customers' pain points in a way that is different from your competitors. So here you say that would, when you've inserted the benefits of your products, that would solve these pain points. And unlike you insert your competitor's name, you can be specific and insert your company's name, or you can just insert the industry that you are trying to launch your product into. My product, insert the product differentiator. How is your product different from what is already on the market? And you align everything to the product vision. Now let's look at how to exemplify this product. Imagine at how to exemplify this problem statement template with an idea. Imagine that you are a product manager for a fintech product, and data collected from user research shows that your users are having a hard time budgeting their money. Your assumption can now be inferred to be that users want a budgeting tool to solve this problem and help them manage their finances better. After speaking to the technical team to gauge feasibility, usually user feedback has already informed your desirability, and then you sync with business stakeholders to just get buy-in for viability. So you always remember I said you'll be working very closely with your stakeholders, managerial stakeholders, and if it's a startup, you're probably working closely with the CEO. However, if you have a manager, your manager will be the one working closely, and your task might be to just write the problem statement while your manager manages stakeholder interactions. However, if you do not have a manager and you're an entry level product manager, you will have to manage stakeholders, which means you have to get buy-in for the future or the version of the MVP you're trying to launch. So you have to write the customer problem statement and show it to them. Now, using your customer problem statement, this um, problem will look like this. For users in their 20s, remember it's a budgeting tool and your product is a fintech. For users in their 20s who struggles with budgeting their money, this is their pain point. A budgeting feature, which is a feature on your MVP that helps users budget their money better, would solve this pain point. Unlike other fintech apps, you can be specific and include the name of a direct competitor here. My products of future will leverage. Now, this is your product differentiator. You are not just going to think, I'm just going to launch a budgeting feature. Everybody else is launching a budgeting feature. How can you deliver value that is not already existing on the market to your users? Now you can say, my products of future will leverage users' data to provide them with personalized reports on their spending behavior, which should improve financial habits. Now, this is your product vision to help your customers improve their financial habits. So, you see how the customer problem statements should always align with your product vision. Writing a customer statement further validates your product as the solution to users' problems. Now, we've been talking about an MVP. Let's address what it is. An MVP is a minimum viable product, and it is the first version of the product that your users will ever interact with. The MVP should have just enough features to be usable by users who can then provide feedback for future optimization of the product. Now, since the MVP is typically the most simplistic version of the product, the focus is more on building straightforward features. You don't want anything complex. You don't want to design any user journey that your users will just be very confused and perplexed, and then they will probably drop off. You want very straightforward features that will get them from point A to point B on your product. And here the focus is more on building straightforward features as quickly as possible so users can begin to share feedback about the product. Because no matter how much you've tested, you always need that user insight to tell you that this is how we would have loved for you. It's one thing for you to have an idea or have a feature that solves a user's problem, but it's another thing for you to implement it the way it's the exact way that it would solve a user's problem. So if you have a good number of your users, a good percentage of your users saying who would have preferred if a feature was implemented this way, then you have to um, prioritize their feedback and use it to optimize your feature. Now, if user interviews were conducted, reaching out to the interviewees to be the beta tester of your MVP before a general launch can be beneficial to fine tuning the MVP before the general public interacts with it. What this means is that once your MVP is complete and you feel like it is ready for people outside of the product team to use, let's say you've concluded QA testing and you now want um, outsiders to use it, but you don't want to go public just yet because you are envisaging some bugs, or you just want a very close circle of users to first interact with your product. The people who you interviewed during your user interview stage can become your beta tester. So this is why you should actually be very intentional when you're conducting your user interview. You could reach out to them and they'll become your beta tester for your MVP. And before it goes live, they would have given you feedback that will help you fine tune the MVP. Now, beta testers are real users who routinely use your product in a production environment. So it's not on the live app yet, but it's in a production environment. What a production environment does is it simulates how the feature or the products would perform once it's live on an app store. um, and there are people who routinely use your product in production environments to uncover any bugs or issues before a general release. For new products, building an MVP would be the goal from the onset. Hence, everything you've done so far from problem ideation, which includes conducting user research, market research, and competitive analysis, to mapping your assumptions, to writing the customer statement for features, to defining your requirements, which is your PRD writing, to prioritizing the first set of features. These are all activities that get towards developing and launching the MVP. Now, there are two broad categories of an MVP: proof of concept MVP and functional MVP. Now, under each category, it can be further broken down into types. So this is your MVP type: proof of concept MVP and functional MVP. Under proof of concept MVP, you have registration of interest pages, digital content, building in existing marketplaces. Under functional MVP, you have plain donuts, which are minimal features. This is for MVP, concierge sticky tape solution, email newsletters, and event and communities. Now, I know that I said the MVP is a minimum viable product. However, depending on your industry, right? Depending on the industry and type of products you are managing, your MVP does not always have to be an app. This is, and you understand once I start to break down these categories of MVP. Now, proof of concept MVP types. Under proof of concept MVP types, you have registration of interest pages, which are landing pages. A landing page is a standalone web page that potential users can land on when they search for your product or click on a specific call to action. Now, landing pages provide credibility for your business brand or product. Imagine that you have landed an app and it's on the marketplace, but you don't have money or you don't have enough resources, financial resources to build out a proper website, you can just do a landing page that when users interact with your product, let's say on social media, they can go to your landing page and they'll see all your information. And they are also cost efficient. Some of these tools are free. These tools here, some of them are free, some of them are affordable, that a startup or a small product team can use to implement um, registration of interest. Now, another example of proof of concept MVP type is digital content such as demo videos or blogs. Using a demo video to showcase what the MVP would look like is beneficial in ensuring stakeholder buy-in, as well as it also helps to pique your customers' interest on social media. Other digital content such as teasers or introductory blogs can also be relevant in engaging your target audience on social media. Now, you might just do a demo video. Let's say you don't want to go all the way, and this is helpful for when you are trying to show your idea, showcase your idea, or present your idea to stakeholders such as CEO or investors. You can use a demo video. You've not maybe the development team is still implementing and your stakeholders are asking you for feedback, they'll be frustrated with the process, or it could be that you just even want to drop an announcement on social media. A demo video is helpful in showcasing what the MVP would look like. And there are tools for creating video or written digital content. Now, there's also building in existing marketplaces. If your product is an e-commerce product, this type of MVP will be beneficial for you. Maybe you've not decided to fully commit to building an app. You can first test demand by setting up an online store or online marketplaces and put your products on, put the you put your products or whatever it is you want to sell. So if it's an e-commerce store, for example, you want to launch a Jumia, right? Obviously, you will not name your product Jumia, but you want to launch something that is akin to Jumia or Konga, but you don't want to build an app just yet. You can go on existing marketplaces like Shopify, Amazon, eBay, and put products up on pre-order. You don't even have to buy equipment. You put products up on pre-order and then include photos of these products, and then you can see how users are interacting with it. Are they interested in the products you are selling? Are they interested in an e-commerce store? By interest, you are even able to further validate your problem, and then you can now go back and invest in a proper app. Under proof of concept MVP, I'm so sorry, this is functional MVP, not proof of concept. So proof of concept has registration of interest pages, digital content, and building in existing marketplaces. Now, functional MVP, you have plain donuts. Now, plain donuts is a general approach to building MVP mobile apps. With the plain donut approach, the product team selects the simplified version of their product. This is for mobile app. You're building an app, right? This is a plain donut approach, and this is typically the one that is more generic when you're working for technology companies that want to build app, want to launch their first MVPs and all of that. They use the plain donut approach, which means that you are selecting a very, very simplified version of your product and minimal features. So just basic features that your users will not be confused or perplexed when they're interacting with your product. Another type of functional MVP is concierge or sticky tape. A concierge MVP is the combined manual steps needed to simulate your product value without the products. This can be used in tangent with the building in existing marketplaces. So you've launched your e-commerce store, for example. You now leverage, or even a landing page, you leverage an existing online market store or a landing page. You've garnered interest, and then you now manually simulate the steps required to deliver value, which means there is no app. So you are doing all the account transactions, you are delivering it yourself. Your operations are not yet seamless and automatic, but you have an MVP. So this is an example of a concierge or sticky tape functional MVP. Another example of a functional MVP is email newsletters and events and communities. This type of MVPs are great for knowledge products. So let's say your product is an edutech, or you want to launch a digital course on a platform, right? But you want to gauge interest, you want to validate your hypothesis, so you want to put out an MVP. You can send out email newsletters to participants of your user interviews to build anticipation, or you can gauge interest in a digital course by asking people to pre-order your course. You can also host a live webinar or a free online workshop online on social media. I know Twitter Spaces, you can do that just to gauge interest before you now commit to launching that edutech, building the app for the edutech, or putting together the resources that you need for your course. Now, tips for building an MVP. You have to ensure that you define your success criteria. It's important to clearly define what you're trying to achieve and identify the appropriate metric to gauge success. We'll discuss how to set product metric in week 4, which is next week. You also have to identify your beta testers early on. Remember, your beta testers are the first set of users that will use your product. Let's say you don't want to launch your MVP to the general public. You reach out to these people and they test your product in a product environment. Now, this means finding the early adopters who will be willing to test your prototype before your product hits the market. So you have to identify who your beta testers will be early on. I recommend for mobile apps that are MVPs that are about to launch, I really recommend testing with beta testers first before launching to general public. There's so many things that, because you are so close to the development and implementation of the process, during QA you might miss some things, not big things, but just small, small, tiny things that beta testers will give you feedback on, and you can go back to the drawing table to implement before launching to the general public. Another tip for building your MVP is prioritizing and implementing feedback. Once your MVP has hit the market, ensure to get feedback from users and implement this feedback in the optimization of your product. You also have to consider your industry or your product. Deciding on which MVP type to leverage is dependent on your type of product or industry. That's it for session 1. Next, we'll be talking about product vision and how to write a product roadmap. See you then.